I believe it actually started 2 years ago when I was working for a small local newspaper in Colorado. It was the holiday season, and like many places, offices take on a cheerful, festive look when the holiday season arrives. Banners and posters appear, Christmas cards are pinned to cork boards, and scented candles and candy bowls suddenly appear on tables. It was a candy dish for individually wrapped Dove dark chocolate candies and squares. I love these ladies. I can't help it. I've always been attracted to the fairer sex for as long as I can remember, and I have a damn good memory. I remember playing doctor with Nancy Newbert at an age I won't mention, and that was just the beginning of my lifelong quest to see the female figure in its naked form. If I couldn't take their clothes off, it didn't matter because I got the same pleasure from looking at them fully clothed. A woman in a skirt or dress with high heels made the same impression on me as a naked lady who only had a smile. It was a pleasure of the highest order. There is such a term for someone like me. Some people use it as a derogatory term, but I've always considered it a badge of honor. The term is dirty old man, and I have been a dirty old man since I was 11 years old. Like most dirty old men, my love for the ladies showed in the way I looked at them, brazenly and completely openly. There were no secret peeks or sideways glances on the sly. I looked and assessed, and did not hide it one bit. Another thing I had in common with most dirty old men was that I was a terrible flirt. I complimented ladies on their appearance. I gently flirted with them and jokingly asked them to leave their husbands, fiancés, and boyfriends and come over to me. I remembered their birthdays, and on Valentine's Day and Sweetest Day, I gave them cards, flowers, and candy, all of them. There were 6 women working in the office, and I flirted with everyone equally. But as Orwell said in Animal Farm, although all pigs are equal, some pigs were more equal than others. And this holds true for the ladies in our office. Even though I treated them all the same, Jennifer always got a little more. While all the girls received flowers, Jennifer's bouquet was always a little larger. If everyone got candy, Jennifer's box would be a little more expensive. Jennifer always got a little more. Jennifer was about 175 centimeters tall, weighed about 57 kilograms, and had blonde hair that fell in waves over her shoulders. She had the look of a healthy California girl, as if she spent all her free time at the beach, sunbathing. I didn't know if the tan was from the tanning bed or from her lying in her backyard, but it didn't matter where it came from. It looked great on her. Jennifer had a beautiful smile, and her eyes sparkled when she looked at you and gave you full power. But all her best features were from the waist down, so to speak. She had a fantastic ass and a spectacular walk that made them look like 2 melons rolling around in a sandbag. And I don't believe there's a man alive who wouldn't stop everything he was doing to look when she passed by. The sight was amazing when she put on skirts and dresses, and absolutely stunning when she put on trousers. But anyway, for me, her best features were her long legs and sexy feet. Don't think for a minute that she didn't know this. Many ladies would go to nail salons or beauty salons once a week to get their nails done. And Jennifer did that too. But she also got her toes manicured. Blood-red polish with little designs that changed from week to week, and she also wore toe rings. She always wore high-heeled sandals with straps that exposed her toes, even in winter. If she had to wear boots to work because of the snow, she always changed into high-heeled sandals as soon as she arrived at work. Upstairs, Jennifer got a bit of a pass, as she wasn't much better than a flat chest, but who cared about the top floor when the bottom floor was so outstanding? It didn't bother me at all that I was a man with a wool-dyed ass and legs, a foot fetish, and that high heels always turned me on greatly. Her husband was one of those lucky ones. The point, of course, was that while other women were equal, Jennifer was just a little more equal when it came to my attention. With Christmas 2 weeks away, I was on my way from the print department to the distribution manager's office when I passed Jennifer's desk and noticed that the candy bowl sitting next to her computer monitor was full of Dove dark chocolate squares. I saved the information that she liked Dove dark chocolate for future reference and went to meet with the distribution manager. Over the next few days, I noticed that the level of chocolate in Jennifer's candy bowl was dropping, which gave me an idea. One evening, when I was grocery shopping, I bought a 6-pack of Dove dark chocolate squares. I start work at 6 in the morning, but the employees don't get to work until 8:30 or 7:45. So when I got there the next morning and filled Jennifer's candy bowl, the office was empty. Over the next 3 weeks, I filled Jennifer's candy bowl, but never let her or anyone else in the office know that I was doing it. The day after New Year's, when I came to work, the candy dish was no longer there. Okay, there's no candy bowl, so we'll just switch gears. Every morning when I came to work, I placed 2 chocolate squares in the center of her work notebook. For the next 2 weeks, I left 2 squares a day on Jennifer's desk, and as far as I knew, no one knew it was me. And then one day, when I walked past Jennifer's table, she stopped me and asked why I leave candy on her table every day. I asked her what made her think it was me, and she told me that one of the women from the night cleaning staff saw me putting candy on her desk. When I got caught, I told her I was leaving them because I was having fun being the mysterious candy fairy. She thanked me for this idea and admitted that she is a chocoholic and just loves dark chocolate. She also admitted that she spent a lot of time trying to figure out who the mystery pastry chef is. Since I was discovered, I stopped putting candy on her desk when I came to work. What I did instead was that every time I went up to the waiting room, I would put chocolate on her table as I passed by. 3 weeks went by, and then one morning, as I was leaving the chocolate, she said she really needed to give up the chocolate and switch to something like carrot sticks or celery. I asked why, and she told me that she and her husband were going on a cruise and she needed to lose 5 pounds to look good in her bikini. The next day, as I walked past her desk, I left a sandwich bag with 4 carrot sticks inside. The next day, it was a couple of pieces of celery, and the next day, a handful of grapes. I did this for the next week until she left on her cruise, and the day she returned, I started leaving out the dark chocolate again. 3 days later, the production manager came to pick me up and said that they wanted to see me at the main office. I followed him, and he led me into the HR manager's office and closed the door. As soon as I saw that we were heading to the HR manager's office, I knew that this would not be a pleasant visit. I didn't like Jill, and she knew it. For her part, she believed that I was disrespecting management and should be put in my place. Shortly after she was hired to replace the HR manager who had left, she came into the store and handed me a list of things she wanted done and then said she expected to have it done by next Friday. Her tone and "I'm a manager and you're a simple person" attitude drove me nuts. So I looked at the list, laughed, and handed it back to her, saying that if she expected it to be done by Friday, she'd better get busy. And what do you get for this? I don't work for you, and nothing on this list is included in my job description. You want it done, do it yourself. You're insubordinate. No, that's not true. You are not in my chain of command. I work for the production manager and he reports to the distribution manager. You are nowhere in this chain. Well, we'll see about that. And she stomped away. I later found out that she went to the distribution manager, complained, and said she was going to put a letter of reprimand on my file. The sales manager told her that she had overstepped her bounds and to stay away from his employees without first consulting him. From then on, everything was cool between us. Jill sat me down and then told me that Jennifer had filed a harassment complaint against me. Jennifer accused me of giving her unwanted attention and that I refused to stop when she asked me to. I vehemently denied this accusation. I admitted to some of the attention, but stated that she never asked me to stop and never gave me any indication that the attention was bothering her. What if she wanted me to stop? All she had to do was ask. I was told that the complaint would be placed on my personnel file and that I should stay away from Jennifer. I was told that even if we bump into each other in the parking lot, I should look the other way and not even say hello or good morning or anything at all. Jill then handed me the complaint and told me to sign it, but I told her no. She said, "Sign this or I'll have to fire you." I was just about to tell her to shove it up her fat ass when the production manager came in and told me to get back to work. As I closed the office door behind me, I heard the production manager attack her. The bottom line was that at the end of the day, I still had a job. As I was leaving HR, I passed Jennifer's desk on the way back to the press room, and she looked up at me, and I gave her a look that should have set her hair on fire. She frowned, and by that time I was already next to her, and left. If the old saying, "Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned," had an opposite. It would be, Bobby will take the grudge to his grave. I didn't know how or when, but this bitch would pay, and pay dearly, for filing a complaint against me. There was no way Jennifer could avoid seeing me every day, since I had to walk right past her desk on the way to the distribution manager's office. I made this trip on average 4 times a day. I made it a point to look her straight in the face when I came and went, and smiled internally because she always looked away. I didn't say a word, but there was no need to. The expression on my face spoke for itself. Valentine's Day arrived and every woman in the office received a card and a heart-shaped box of chocolates from me. Everyone except Jennifer. I knew all the women's birthdays, and on their birthdays, they all received cards and flowers from me. Everyone except Jennifer. The other girls in the office noticed this, and I'm sure they wondered what was going on. About 4 months after my visit to HR, I had my first opportunity to get back at Jennifer. My work schedule is a little strange. Since 80% of my job is maintaining equipment and keeping it running, I have to be there when the presses start up to fix anything that breaks down. The other side of the coin is that I cannot carry out maintenance and repairs while the machines are running. The company is desperate for overtime pay, so I had to create a schedule that would allow me to do my job while keeping my hours down to 40. I generally work 14 to 16 hours on a Tuesday, from 3 a.m. until the press stops around 5 p.m. Wednesday is usually a 14-hour workday from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Thursday is my slow day, and I work for about 7 hours from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. On Friday, I come in at 4 a.m. and clean oil and grease until the 40 hours are up, and then leave until the following Tuesday. Due to my work schedule, I have a key card that allows me to enter the building at any time of the day. The only other people who have this privilege are managers and above. Other employees can only enter the building when the electronic timer disables the door locks, which happens at 7:30 in the morning. At 7 in the evening, the computer electronically activates the door locks and you will not be able to enter the building unless you have a key card. It was Wednesday, one of my long days, and we finished the presses around 7:30. It usually takes me half an hour to finish my papers and turn everything off. Since I'm usually the last one to leave the building, it's my responsibility to make sure everything is turned off and locked tightly before I leave. I was making my rounds to make sure everything was as it should be when I saw Jennifer walking towards her car. She must have been working late. While I was watching out the window, she got into her car and turned the key in the ignition. Jennifer's car was a late model GM car that had a sensor on the dashboard that sensed light levels and automatically turned on the headlights when it got dark outside. This function is activated as soon as you turn on the key. I saw Jennifer's light come on and then start to go out, which told me that her battery was probably dead. I smiled at her misfortune and finished my tour of the building, cleaned myself up, and then looked at my watch and headed to my pickup truck. Jennifer saw me, got out of her car, walked up to me and said, "I need you to let me back into the building. My car has stalled, and I need to use the phone to call my husband to come get me." I ignored her, opened the door to my truck, and started to get into it. "Didn't you hear me? I need to get back into the building so I can use the phone." I turned to her and said, "I'll probably get in trouble for this, but what the hell, you're a lady in trouble, so I think I can probably get away with it." "What can you get away with?" "I was told that I shouldn't talk to you or have anything to do with you. In fact, I think the exact words were, even if you meet each other in the parking lot, you should look the other way and not even say hello or good morning or anything at all. But since you're in trouble, I'll talk to you long enough to tell you that there's a payphone at the Texaco station. It's only a 10-minute walk from here." And then I slammed my door and drove away, leaving her standing there. 3 weeks after the parking lot incident, Jennifer left the company. But this did not mean that we would not see each other again. The city wasn't so big that we didn't run into each other from time to time. We had Safeway, King Soopers, Target, and a Walmart supercenter. There were 10 gas stations and maybe a dozen restaurants, so there was a good chance I would see Jennifer from time to time, and I did. And every time I saw her, I looked at her with the expression, "You're a fucking bitch." She looked at my face and always looked away. It was a week before Thanksgiving, on a Wednesday. I had just gotten off work and was shopping at Walmart when I saw Jennifer pushing a cart around the store. She was pregnant, apparently about 7 or 8 months, and saw me. I gave her the look, and she turned her cart around and headed to the checkout counters. I finished my shopping, paid, and headed to my truck. I was loading up my things when I noticed a woman about 6 parking rows away from us trying to remove the spare tire from the trunk of her car. There was snow and slush on the ground. The temperature dropped, and the slush began to freeze, and the woman kept slipping. I finished loading my things into the truck and then drove over to see if I could help this woman. I got out of the truck and said, "Can I help you with this?" The woman turned to me, and I saw that it was Jennifer. "Oh, it's you," I said, and turned to walk back to my truck. "Damn you," she said to me behind me. "I wouldn't harm you if you tried to become a decent person at least once in your life." The wrong words and the wrong tone of voice to say it. I turned to her and said, "Do you need my help? Okay, I'll help you. All you have to do is climb into my truck and please me. Either that or the parking lot is full of cars, so go find someone else to help you." Would I try to do it myself if I could get someone else to help me? I tried, but it doesn't bother anyone. I shrugged and then went back to my truck. I just sat there and watched her struggle. After almost falling over twice, she walked over to my truck and stood there waiting for me to roll down the window. "I'll give you $20 to change my tire." "No, thank you. I told you my price." "Then 35. That is all I have. Forgive." She stood and looked at me for a few seconds, and then her shoulders slumped in defeat, and she said, "Okay, change my tire and I'll do what you want." "Never. Payment in advance. You do me good and then I'll change the tire. You don't like me, so how do I know you won't leave as soon as I do this? How do I know you won't laugh at me and tell me to go to hell when I finish and demand payment? You need my help, we'll do it my way. At first it feels good for me, and then I help." "Bastard," she growled, and then walked around the truck and climbed into the passenger seat. I unzipped the zipper. I saw a tear appear in the corner of her eye, and then she looked at me with a look of pure hatred. She lowered her head and got to work. It wasn't bad considering the fact that she was more or less forced to do it, and I just sat there and smiled. I did my part. Now get your worthless ass out of here and change your fucking tire. I zipped it up, and then turned the truck's heater on full blast. "Stay here and stay warm," I said, and I got out of the truck and changed the tire. The temperature was dropping quickly, and the slush and snow were icy, so when I finished changing the tire and putting things in the trunk of her car, I walked back to the truck and invited her to lean on my arm so she wouldn't slip and fall. Not a word was spoken, and when we arrived at her car, she got in, started it, and drove off. 2 weeks passed before I saw her again. I was sitting in a booth eating dinner at Black Eyed Pea when I noticed her heading towards me. She stopped at my table and said, "I saw you sitting here and I know how much my misfortune turns you on, so I thought I'd come by and brighten your day. My husband left me 3 weeks before Christmas, 8 months pregnant, and he left. I hope this brings a smile to your face." And then she turned and walked away. I didn't smile when she left. I actually felt sorry for her. I saw her stop at the counter and pay for her food, and on a sudden impulse, I stood up, threw enough money on the table to pay for the food and tip, and headed out to the parking lot. I caught up with her as she unlocked her car door. She saw me approaching her and said, "Have you come to gloat? Are you going to tell me how happy you are to see how they have me?" "No, nothing like that. As hard as it may be for you to believe, I am truly here to offer you my help if you need it." "You? Can you help me? And you expect me to believe that?" "No, I don't expect you to believe it, but there is an offer, and it's sincere." I handed her a business card and said, "These are my home and cell phone numbers. If you need help with anything, just call me." "Why are you doing it? What's the catch? After what you did to me, why are you suddenly pretending to be nice? Look, you put a harassment complaint in my personnel file at work. I never, not once during the entire time you worked at the newspaper, pestered you. All you ever had to do was say, 'Stop it. It makes me nervous and uncomfortable.' And I would stop. This complaint will forever remain on my personal file. This will be seen by a new production manager or HR manager reviewing the files. These days, a complaint of harassment is automatically considered sexual harassment. Even if I leave the newspaper and go look for another job, it will follow me. They asked for a recommendation and were told, "He's a good worker. The only blemish on his record is a harassment complaint in his personnel file." Do you think they would hire me? This is what you hung around my neck. Was I angry? You're damn right, I was right, and I swore I'd get back at you for doing this to me. And I did. But I also put it out of my mind. I've always liked you, and I'm sure you knew it. I don't regret what I did, but I'm sorry you found yourself in this position. I'll help you if you need it. She looked at me for a few seconds and then said, "Unreal. You're fucking unreal." And she got into her car, started it, and drove away. But she didn't throw away my business card. I saw her put it in her pocket before getting into the car. She called me 3 days later. "Are you serious? About helping me?" "Yes, I meant it. I need to buy a Christmas tree and put it up. I can't fight her in my condition. Will you come with me? Can you help me find a tree and then put it up for me?" Jennifer was very picky when it came to the wood she wanted. We looked at 4 lots before she found one that was the right height and shape. When we got back to her house, she took me down to the basement and showed me where the stand and decorations were kept, and I took it all upstairs to her living room. I set the tree up on a stand, put a star on top, and then the two of us started hanging the garlands. As I lit the lights around the tree, I asked her if she thought her husband might come back. "Not if that bastard knows what's best for him." I raised an eyebrow and she noticed and said, "I wasn't being entirely truthful when I said he left me. I mean, as far as I can tell, he left, but he didn't leave of his own free will. I threw his ass out." "You're pregnant, your due date is near, and you kicked out the father of your baby?" "I caught him having sex with his secretary. He hasn't made love to me since I started getting fat, but he could fuck that bitch on the table in his office. I was in the city center and decided to stop by, surprise him, and invite him to lunch. I was really surprised. I told him not to bother coming home because I wouldn't let him in. I threw all his clothes in the snow in the front yard, and 3 days later I served him with divorce papers. If you don't have a husband and no other children, besides the one you're carrying, why are you even bothering to put up a Christmas tree?" "Because my baby is due on the 23rd, and it will be her first Christmas. I want a brightly lit and decorated tree for her when I bring her home from the hospital." As we finished decorating the tree, I watched her and found it hard to believe that her husband, or almost ex-husband, stopped making love to her when her belly started to get bigger. She was sexy as hell before she got pregnant, and if anything, pregnancy made her even sexier. If I were in his place, I would not be able to take my hands off her. She caught me looking at her and asked why I was looking at her like that, and I told her. "Really? It's a pity you weren't around earlier." "Why do you say that?" "Pregnancy messes up your hormones. Right around the time I started putting on weight, I went into a state of constant arousal, and that was right when Rory decided he didn't like me anymore." "How did you deal with it?" "I satisfied myself a lot. If I had known that Rory was cheating on me, I would have taken a lover myself." She saw the look on my face and said, "No, I don't usually talk to men like that, but after that night in the Walmart parking lot, I don't think I need to ingratiate myself with you." "Well, anyway, if you decided to take a lover, I would volunteer in a heartbeat." She gave me a strange look, and we finished decorating the tree without further ado. When everything was done, she thanked me for my help, and I wished her good night and headed home. 2 days later, Jennifer called me at work and said that she might need my help again. She asked if I could stop by on my way home from work. When she let me in, she led me into the living room and told me to sit on the sofa. "I'm going to open a bottle of wine. From time to time, I am allowed to have a glass. Would you like a glass, or would you prefer beer?" I told her the wine would be fine, and she left the room. She returned a couple of minutes later with 2 glasses of red wine and sat down on the couch next to me. I took a sip of wine and then asked her what I could do to help her. "You're already doing this." "What?" "I know this is probably not what you had in mind when you offered to help, but I just needed someone to be here next to me. My whole family moved back east, and with Rory gone, I was left all alone. It's the holiday season and I'm alone. You don't have to stay if you don't want to, but I could really use some company. I sipped my wine and watched her sip hers, and the look on my face made her say, "What? Why are you looking at me like that?" All things considered, I just find it positively overwhelming that you want me here. You may not have family here, but you must have a lot of friends. And they are all busy with their families during the holidays. Besides, I have an ulterior motive for inviting you. And what could it be? I need to apologize for what happened to you at work and explain how it happened. Forget it. It's water under the bridge, and besides, after what I did to you, I'd rather not even go back and think about it. No, I need to explain. I didn't file a harassment complaint against you. I didn't know anything about the harassment complaint until you told me about it that night at Black Eyed Pea. I actually went to Jill to ask her how to deal with the problem, and she said she would take care of it. The next thing I know, you were scowling at me and giving me hateful looks. I don't know if you know this, but Maxine from accounting is Rory's cousin, and she happened to jokingly tell Rory that he better keep an eye on me, that I have a crush at work who is trying to hit on me. Rory lost his temper, ranted, raved, and accused me of encouraging you and leading you on. He demanded that I put an end to it. I didn't tell you anything because I liked your attention. You were so sweet. Never did or said anything inappropriate. I didn't know what to do, but after a week of Rory wanting to know if I had put an end to it, I went to Jill and asked for advice, and that's all I did. I swear to God, that's all I did. She told me not to worry, and that she would take care of it. Could you put this in writing for me? Of course I will. I sat and looked at her intently, and after a few moments she asked, "What are you thinking about?" That I would be much better off not knowing what you just told me. Why did it happen? Because now I have to live with what I did, both at Walmart and the night I left you in the parking lot at work. They didn't bother me when I knew I'd get even with you for what you did to me. But from now on, it will really bother me. I don't know how you can stand my presence here in your house. I focus on the memories of the sweet guy who treated me to my favorite chocolate and gave me flowers on my birthday. She refilled my glass, and we sat in silence for a few minutes. And then Jennifer said, "And how far are you willing to go to help me?" Considering how guilty I feel right now, I'd say the only limit to how far I'm willing to go is that I wouldn't kill your husband for you, but pretty much anything else is acceptable. She looked at me for several seconds, and I could tell that she wanted to say something, but had difficulty getting it out of her mouth. Finally, she said, "I told you that I've been extremely horny since I started gaining weight, and I told you that Rory started ignoring me at the same time. I need a man's touch, Bob." I stared at her as it slowly dawned on me what she was asking, and I finally found my voice and said, "Are you saying that you want me to make love to you?" Yes and no. "What does it mean?" I asked. "I'm too close to my due date to want intercourse, but there are other ways a man can please me." I knew what she was suggesting, and I had no objection to doing it, but I had to ask, "Why me?" For two reasons. Firstly, you told me that if I wanted to take a lover, you would volunteer, and secondly, I never cheated on Rory, never even considered the possibility of cheating, and I wouldn't know how to seduce someone to make it do what I would like. But after that night at Walmart, I feel like I can be honest with you. So, do you still want to volunteer? Well, I think I really owe you one, and you're a very sexy lady, so yes, I'll volunteer. My bed is larger and more comfortable than the sofa, isn't it? She stood up and headed to her bedroom, and I stood up to follow her, wondering how things had turned out. Never in a million years would I have thought that I would end up in Jennifer's bedroom and on the bed with her. I followed her into the bedroom and stood watching her undress. Even 8 months pregnant, she was damn sexy. She looked sexy and had that glow that pregnant women get. She looked at me standing there looking at her and said, "Why don't you take off your clothes?" "I don't have to be naked to do what I'm going to do." Nonsense, Bob. I said I needed a man's touch, but I also meant that I needed to be touched by a man. I want Bob with bare skin. I don't need shirt material. Please, Bob, take off your clothes for me. I undressed as she climbed onto the bed and then walked over, grabbed her ankles with my hands and pulled her until she sat on the edge of the bed. I looked up at Jennifer's face and saw the anticipation on it, then lowered my head and proceeded to business. Jennifer moaned and cried and her body shook as I did everything I could to please her. Then she pulled away and sat up on the bed. "Thank you. I needed it. I really needed this. Can you hug me?" I lay down next to her, hugged her, and we cuddled, and then I fell asleep. I woke up, looked at my watch, and saw that it was almost 2 in the morning. I stood up and started gathering my clothes. I must have woken Jennifer up because I heard her say, "What are you doing?" "I need to get home." "No, you won't do that. You are already naked and lying here in bed. There is no point in getting up, getting dressed, going home, undressing and going back to bed. Just go back to bed. It's nice to feel someone's warm body pressed against mine." What could I say? It was so nice to feel her warm body next to mine that I climbed into bed with her again. The next day was Saturday, so I didn't have to get out of bed early. When I finally woke up, I was alone in bed, and the smell of frying bacon filled the air. I got dressed and walked into the kitchen, and Jennifer smiled at me and said, "Good morning, sleepyhead. The coffee is on the counter behind you. How do you like your eggs? Break the yolks and hard fry them. How long have you been awake?" "Maybe an hour. I usually get up early." We ate in silence, probably because neither of us could think of anything to say. I don't know what Jennifer was thinking, but there was a guy sitting on my side of the table who wasn't used to waking up in someone else's bed. I've had a lot of women wake up in my life, and I always felt some relief when we kissed goodbye and they left. I wondered if this was the thought that crossed Jennifer's mind. I found myself hoping that wasn't the case, because I kind of liked waking up in her arms. Jennifer interrupted my thoughts. "What are you thinking about?" "Just trying to make sense of it." "Which?" "You know, my stay here. After the way I treated you, there's no way I should be here. You should run away screaming at the mere sight of me." "Blame it on my pregnancy. I have all sorts of mood swings and end up doing strange things. I guess a lot of it has to do with the fact that you said you thought I was sexy. Even thinking I knew I looked like a beached whale with you offering to help me, and then I had one of my mood swings. Whatever it is, I have no regrets." "Me too." "What are you doing today?" "I'll clean my apartment, do my laundry, and watch some college football." "Why do you ask?" "I was going to ask you to spend this day with me. Last night was nice, but it only made things worse. It's hard for a girl to go without sex for more than 6 months, especially one who is used to it 3 or 4 times a week. So what you're saying is that you want me to be your sex toy for a day. Maybe another time too." My apartment was not cleaned that weekend. My laundry wasn't finished, and I didn't watch a minute of football or college or anything else. I spent most of the next week either stopping by Jennifer's on the way home from work or calling her to see if she was okay, and twice she asked me to stay the night. On Saturday, I looked after her while she went shopping and then took her out to dinner. On the way home, I asked her how she planned to get to the hospital when the time came, and she told me that her in-laws were determined to do so. Even though it's over between me and Rory, they're grandparents, and they say they want Janet in their lives. Janet? This is the name I chose for my little girl, Janet Elaine. Does your husband plan to be present at the birth? I doubt it. I haven't heard from that bastard in 2 months. When I drove her home, I kissed her and said I would call her, and she asked, "Aren't you staying?" "Not today. I really need to do laundry and tidy up my apartment. I don't dare let this slide for 2 weeks straight." "Okay, then let's go to your house. I can wash your clothes while you clean, or I can clean the apartment while you do laundry." "Why do you want to do this?" "Because I don't want to be alone right now, and I feel comfortable with you. You can't clean the house or do the laundry in your good clothes. I'll pack a bag, or better yet, you'll spend the night here, and in the morning we'll go to your house and do what needs to be done." "Are you sure?" "What I'm sure of is that I want your body next to me tonight, and if that's what I have to do to get it, then yes, I'm sure." In the morning, we headed to my home and stopped for breakfast at a village inn. I sat on the other side of the table and watched her dig into her pancakes and wondered what it would be like to spend the rest of my life with her. I felt more comfortable with her than with any other woman in my life, including my ex, who I thought I was madly in love with. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Just interested in some things. When will your divorce be final?" "Not until the baby is born. Asshole wants a DNA test to prove he's the father before he agrees to pay child support. I'm not pushing it, because the longer this goes on, the more the lawyers will charge him, and Rory's checkbook hit is what hurts him the most. What are you going to do after the divorce is final?" "I'll try to convince the man I chose to replace Rory that he can't live without me." "And how will this man look at all this time you spend with me?" She looked at me and was silent for a second or two before saying, "You can't be that stupid." It took a couple more seconds for what she had just hinted to sink in, and I sat there looking at her, completely stunned and speechless. I finally collected my thoughts and found the power of speech. "You and me? You can't be serious. You don't know me, and you don't know anything about me. Not only that, but how can you even think of not noticing how disgusting I have been towards you? Yeah, and what about how nice you've been to me the last 2 weeks? You treated me like a princess. Girls love it, in case you didn't know. But still, it's too small to even think about it. Not for me. I know it sounds strange, but I know it's right. I called you on a whim. I needed help and you volunteered and you didn't hesitate when I called and came right away. I didn't even expect that we would be able to live together as long as it took to find the tree. But by the time we decorated it, I knew you were the one. Don't ask me how I knew. I just realized it. I am more confident in this than I have ever been in anything in my life. All I have to do now is convince you." Things were getting too confusing for me, so I changed the subject and asked her how her pancakes were going. On the way to my house, I thought about nothing else except the bomb she had just dropped on me. Of course, I felt more comfortable around her than with any other woman, and I wondered what it would be like to spend the rest of my life with her, but I knew even less about her than she knew about me. I did think about her almost constantly, but that was the case with Annie, and look how my marriage to her turned out. Jennifer said she just knew, but I just knew about Annie, so I wasn't going to put too much faith in that. But I couldn't deny that I was very interested in Jennifer, and God knows I loved waking up next to her and wanting to make it a daily thing. Well, nothing was going to happen until her divorce was resolved, so I had time. Jennifer took one look at my apartment and said, "No, that won't do." "What do you mean won't fit?" "He's too small for the 3 of us." "The 3 of us? You, me, and Janet. Do you have a lease?" "No, this happens month after month." "Fine. Then there won't be any problems getting you to move out." "Move out?" "I intend to keep the house during the divorce. Rory may have other ideas, but I'm sure the courts will understand that I need a home where I can raise my child. As soon as the divorce is finalized, we will move in together." "Are we going to do this? Don't I have a say in this matter?" "Of course you have a say, and by the time comes, I'm sure I can convince you that saying yes is the smartest thing to do." I just stood there and looked at her. I had no idea what to say. The situation was just too out of the ordinary for me. "Come on," Jennifer said. "Let's get your business done so we can do what I want." "And what would that be?" "Foolish man. Show me your bedroom. I want to see if the bed is strong enough." When I dropped her off at her house that evening, she kissed me passionately and then said, "I'm sure of it, baby. I'm going to do a full trial press. It's right, and I think you know it. You just have to accept it. See you tomorrow." I told her I would do so and headed back to my apartment. I really thought about her and what she was offering, and the more I thought about it, the more I thought it could work. I really fucking loved being around her, and I loved how she felt when I woke up next to her. The idea clicked, and, as Jennifer said, it just felt right. But that was the problem. Annie felt good, and look how that turned out. It felt right until the day I walked in on her in bed with her boss. I couldn't believe this stupid woman was trying to put all the blame on me for coming home when I shouldn't have. So no, it just feels right. wasn't enough for me. The phone ringing woke me up from a deep sleep, and when I woke up with difficulty and reached for the phone, I saw that it was 3:10 in the morning. It was Jennifer, and there was panic in her voice. "Bob, my water just broke and I can't reach my in-laws. Can you take me to the hospital?" I told her I was on my way, hurriedly got dressed, and drove to her house. I helped her into my truck, and then we headed to the hospital. On the way, she told me that she called the hospital and her doctor and tried several more times to call her husband's relatives. "I wasn't due until the day after tomorrow, and I don't think they expected me to call so early. Give me their number and I'll keep trying to contact them. Do you have your husband's phone number? He should know." "Well, to hell with it. He's probably sleeping with his secretary. However, he is the child's father and should be given a chance to be there." Jen wrote some numbers on a piece of paper and gave it to me. The top number is Rory's parents' number and the bottom number is Rory's cell phone. I pulled into the emergency room entrance, and within minutes, Jennifer was on a gurney being wheeled away. I tried to call Jennifer's in-laws without success, so I called the number she gave me for her husband. He answered on the 7th ring, and I told him who I was and that I had just taken Jennifer to the hospital. "So why are you waking me up? Tell me this. This is your child. I thought you might like to be here." She said that this is my child, but it so happens that I don't believe it. And he passed out. Well, Jennifer said he was an asshole. I thought about heading home and going back to bed, but then I decided that someone needed to be with Jennifer, so I asked for directions to the maternity ward waiting room and then headed there to wait. After that, everything became somehow anticlimactic. The doctor said that the birth was easy and everything was fine between mother and child. Janet weighed 8 pounds and 7 ounces and had perfect fingers and toes. I finally got through to my grandparents and they all apologized. We expected her to last 2 more days. We were out of town visiting friends. I think we should splurge and get one of these cell phones. Half an hour later, Marge and Ralph were there looking out the window at the baby and arguing good-naturedly about who she liked best. Rory never came to the hospital. When Jennifer was discharged on Christmas Eve, I stopped by her house on the way to pick her up and turned on the lights on the tree so that the tree would be lit when Janet was brought inside. I drove Jennifer and Janet home and helped them climb inside. Marge was already there to help her, so I kissed her on the cheek and said, "I'll see her later." Jennifer squeezed my sleeve in her hand and said, "Please be here tomorrow." I told her I would be there and left her in the care of her mother-in-law while I went home to my apartment. I was going through my mail and found a Christmas card with a familiar message on it, so I opened it. It was from Annie and it was a standard Peace on Earth card, but on the left side she wrote, "I wish you weren't here or that I was there. Please call me Bobby." It made absolutely no sense, but this card from my ex clicked in my head, and when I tossed it in the trash with the rest of the junk mail, I knew what I was going to do. Jennifer sat on the couch, hugging Janet and humming to her. I watched the mother and child and knew that what I was about to do was right. Jennifer noticed me looking at her and noticed the way I was looking at her and asked, "What? Why are you looking at me like that?" Trying to figure out how to do this. Do what? I couldn't figure out how to put a wedding ring on the finger of a woman who still wears her wedding rings. Then I realized how stupid it would be to propose to a married woman at all. I decided that before I could propose to you, you would need to get a divorce, but some married women are known to have boyfriends, regular boyfriends, and so I decided to ask you if you would like to be permanent until you get divorced. I knelt down in front of her, took my hand out of my pocket, and handed her the chain with my class ring. "How about it, Jennifer? Do you want to be my permanent girlfriend?" Foolish man. Do you have to ask? Put the chain around my neck and kiss me. I did so, and then I sat down next to her on the sofa, hugged her, and we sat and looked at the